Okay, we're going to start on page 12, Guidelines Protecting Residents' Rights. Of course, we're never going to abuse a resident physically, verbally, or sexually. Call them by the name they prefer. I got a young lady. She wants to be called Queen, and that's what we call her, Queen. That's the name she prefers. I forget her real name, but it's not Queen. Involve residents in planning. Always explain the procedure before you're going to do it. And that is part of your state certification test as well. Hello, my name is Cheryl Davis. I'm your CNA today, and I will be doing, we will be. And you always explain what you're going to do first. And that is number one on your CNA skills, every one of them. Explain yourself, maintain privacy as you're explaining yourself. Tell them what you're about to do. Don't unnecessarily expose the residents. That's part of their privacy. Respect the residents' refusal of care. They have a legal right. When it becomes detrimental to them, the doctors may change and force them. But a lot of times, you just try to encourage as much as you can until they give in. But it's their right to say no. Tell the nurse if the resident has questions, concerns. You are not to give advice. You're not to answer some of those questions. You let the nurse do it. Be truthful when documenting. Do not gossip about your residents. Keep them confidential. Knock and ask permission before you enter their room. Do not accept gifts or money. How many times they have said this? Several times. Do not open a resident's mail or look through its belongings. If you do, it needs to be in front of them. Respect the residents' personal possessions. Handle them gently and carefully. Report observations about residents' condition. A lot of times you are the eyes of the nursing team. You're going to see that patient change first because that nurse is in and out. She's giving meds, she's doing her thing. You're going to notice a change. You tell the nurse, and they have to come and assess that patient, make sure that they are okay. If something's going on, then they can further evaluate. But most of the time, it's you that notice the change first because you know your patient. You know, like when I seen your sister and she told me some crazy mess, I said, oh, something's wrong. But anybody else, the nurse came in, she did exactly what she wanted her to do. She did her nebulizer treatment. She was doing all that. But she asked me some crazy questions. I was like, okay, I'm going to talk to the nurse because you notice it because you're there with them. You're going to notice them better than that person that comes in and does what they do and come on out. Help resolve disputes by reporting them to the nurse. Maintaining boundaries. Again, they're talking about your patient boundaries. You want to be the nurse. You want to be the caretaker, not their friend. And that's the same. You want to be able to be a little authoritative. You know, I need you to do this and this and this. Because once you become their friend, they're going to be like, oh, you can I just stay in bed a little bit longer? Nope. You got to get up and doctor's orders. I always blame it on somebody else. I always do. It ain't me saying this. The doctor says this. So if you do that way, and always, even if they refuse a bath, I come back in there and aggravate them. I'm going to get fired if I don't bathe you today. They say, you ain't bathed in 3 days. We got to bathe you. And then I aggravate them. In a nice, happy way. But, get more, what it is, sugar with niceness. So what's the saying? That's what I'm talking about. Maintain those boundaries. A very important part of protecting their residents' rights is to keep them free of abuse. And there are some definitions of abuse that we should know. Underline, abuse is purposeful mistreatment that causes physical, mental, emotional pain or injury to someone. It's purposeful mistreatment that causes physical, emotional pain. Neglect can actually be purposeful or not purposeful, or unintentional is what they call it. But it's the failure to provide needed care that results in physical, mental, or emotional harm to a person. Something you didn't do that should have been done. Things happen, especially when they're first coming into the nursing home. We don't know that they need certain things done. And we don't really classify it. We don't like to say the words neglect, but it is an unintentional neglect. But once we find out what needs to be done for that patient, then we can do it. And sometimes it does. That first day to then we figure out, oh, they need this and that, and we start doing that. But let's get to know your patient, get to know what they need to do. Sometimes you don't get a full report on that patient, or they tell you that patient is almost perfect. You're wondering why they're even in the nursing home. But then you get them and they're totally opposite. So just know that got to figure out what's wrong with our patients. Even though reports say one thing, patient will tell you another. Just watching or looking at them, taking care of them. No physical abuse is any treatment, intentional or not, that causes harm to a person's body. Slapping, bruising, cutting, burning, physically restraining, pushing, shoving, rough handling. All of that is abuse. You don't want to be rough with your patients. A lot of them bruise very easily. So you got to be very careful with that too. Psychological abuse is emotional harm caused by threatening, scaring, humiliating, intimidating, isolating, insulting, or treating them like a child. All of that is psychological. You don't want to do that as well. You're not, don't do that. Or pop them on the hands. None of that. Don't do that. That is terrible. I noticed one of my students today, that's what she did to another student, or yesterday. And I was like, that raises something in me. Just when somebody does that, that's like you're a child. And I said, wait, don't talk to her like that. It wasn't a talking to, but it was just the way she did it. It was like, like you would a child. Just don't do that. But that is as how you do that as well. Verbal abuse. Now this is different in healthcare. Verbal abuse is also written words, anything to do with words. And I know in school we didn't learn that verbal was anything we say out our mouth that you can hear. That's verbal. But verbal in healthcare is also written words. It could be a nasty note you wrote, but that is verbal abuse. So know that it's written and spoken words is verbal abuse that may threaten, embarrass, or insult the person. Sexual abuse, y'all know what that is, forcing a person, even including sharing pornographic material. That's not funny. And that is actually abuse. One of my fellas got hold of him, one of them old fellas in the nursing home, and they had a ball looking at Pornhub.com. But he kept them good and laughing and just, they was talking and all that. But that actually is sexual abuse, sharing that with somebody that you just don't do that. But they had a time. If he was to get hold to the phone and look it up, that's him. Or even fill on himself, doing all the things. He can do what he want to do. Not in front of everybody, in their room. But that's sexual abuse when you are participating. Financial abuse is messing with their money, possessions, property. Assault. And know the difference in assault and battery. Assault is a threat. Underline threat. It's not you actually touching them. Assault is a threat to harm a person, resulting in a person feeling fearful that they will be harmed. So that's what an assault is. You can assault somebody when you ain't said, you've done said something, but you haven't actually touched them. Battery is the intentional touching of a person without his or her consent. That's you actually hitting them, touching them, doing something to them. So assault is the threat that makes them feel like you're going to hurt them. Battery is the intentional messing with them, actually touching them. Domestic violence is all the same, all the violences, all the abuses, but it is part of your family that you are hurting. That's why they call it domestic. False imprisonment is unlawful restraint that affects a person's freedom of movement. Underline that. Both the threat of and actually being falsely imprisoned you will be charged with that. Involuntary seclusion, that's separation from others against their will. It's put them in a room and tell them they can't come play bingo. But that is involuntary seclusion. Workplace violence, that is more what we experience. We experience workplace violence. If a patient hits you, what are we going to call it? Workplace violence. If you hit a patient, what do we call it? Abuse, a charge. Yes, that is abuse. But if a patient hits you, workplace violence. How about if your coworker hits you? Workplace violence. All of that is workplace violence. We do not call it abuse when a patient hits you. They're liable to hit you, and you just know that, and you try to stay away. I always say if you let an old person beat you up, it's your fault. Because you could have ran, or you could have just stayed a little further distance. They might get one hit in, or one scratch, but not too much more. Yeah, that's what they call workplace violence. Sexual harassment is unwelcome sexual advances or behaviors. Even your patients can sexually harass you. You know, they like the way you look. Okay. Had a little, it is crazy. Black guy, dread head, everything. And this little white lady just loved him to death, and she grabbed his crotch and just wanted him in the bed with her. I was like, oh my gosh. I said, don't you go back in that room. He liked it, thought it was funny, but he didn't want her to grab him. But you know that she liked it. But she likes you a little bit too much. Yeah, you make her day, but don't go back in that room. Because that can lead to other things, like you're helping him. I said, just don't go back in there. And he didn't, but we had a laugh, but it shouldn't be a laughing matter, especially if he keeps going back in there. But that could be sexual harassment, even from the patients. Little fella that y'all probably will see, he's always claiming one of y'all as his girlfriend. He's got to have one of y'all as his girlfriend. And he be looking, just look like he is the pervert from 1921. He probably was the biggest pervert way back then. But that's how he looks at you. And one of y'all gonna be his girlfriend. But he don't do nothing but just know your patients. Substance abuse is illegal drugs, cigarettes, alcohol in a way that harms oneself. So it could be legal, but it's being abused. That is substance abuse. And I talked about neglect before. You have active neglect. That means you actually knew what you were supposed to do and you didn't do it. That's active neglect. The worst case I've seen, and this lady sat on the toilet for, 2 or 3 hours. It was shift change, and one of the girls put the lady on the toilet like she would any other time, but shift came along and she forgot what was going on. They didn't do a walkthrough. They would have found that patient. They would have got together. They would have put her, because that's what you do, shift change. You walk with your person that's relieving you, checking the rooms, you're accepting the rooms, and they're making sure they did everything they should do before you come on. So if that would have happened, that lady wouldn't have been sitting there. But what happened, and both of them got in trouble. The other girl didn't know. She went to doing something else, giving baths, doing whatever. Never went into that patient's room, and she'd been sitting there like forever. And I guess she started hollering or ringing her bell or something. But if she wasn't close to her bell, I forget how she got found. But that was neglect. You don't do that. And they charged both of them. I don't think they gave a charge because it wasn't, nobody was really straight harmed. But they got rolled up, and I think they might have got fired. I can't remember. But the girl that saw her there should have gave him a report that, Miss So-and-so is still on the toilet. Or not left until you got her off the toilet. Well, the other lady didn't check, didn't go in the patient's room, didn't know, she just went straight to one patient, started doing that. Which she, any other time, might have thought that was a good thing, getting things together, but you need to go look at your patients. You need to go look at those rooms. You need to check and see what's going on and accept what's going on. And that's what she did. And both of them got in trouble. Same way. That is, whereas she did active neglect, the other lady did passive neglect, where she didn't know and she didn't provide the care. But the first one was active. She knew she put that lady on the toilet. She should have called back or something, if she remembered, or something. And take care of our patient. Negligence means actions or the failure to act to provide the proper care for a resident. So that's the whole meaning of negligence. Malpractice is very much like negligence, but it is actually done by that professional, which is their meaning. They're called, the RN will get malpractice. The doctor will get malpractice. That's a bigger charge. Messes with their licenses for real. But that's what they call malpractice. Reporting abuse is not an option, it is the law. And you got to remember that now, or you become part of it. You allowed it to happen if you do not report it now. So do not report things. Observe and report any abuse or neglect, poisoning, traumatic injury, teeth marks, belt buckles, bruises, contusions, welts, scars, fractures, dislocation. All this can happen in a nursing home as well, assisted living, or in people's homes. Burns, scalding burns, scratches, puncture wounds, scalp tenderness where they pull their hair, swelling in the face, broken teeth, nasal discharge, bruises, bleeding, discharge from the vaginal area. All these are terrible things, but it can happen. Also, the patient may act a certain way. You may not see some of those things, but maybe the patient's hollering and cussing you out, and you don't know what for, but that's because they can't cuss out the one beating them. But they're going to cuss out the one that's coming later. Maybe they're hitting at you, but no better than hitting at the other one. You know, they're acting out. So watch out when things like that are happening too. Any constant pain, threatening to hurt others, withdrawal, apathy, if they're alcohol or drug abuse, maybe they're at home. Agitation, anxiety, low self-esteem, mood changes. That private conversation is not allowed. And you see that a lot in children or parents that's hurt their children and took them to the ER or something. And they're not going to leave that child outside, scared the child might tell them. So they do not leave that child outside. And that is, you know, they won't let you talk to that child by themselves. Same with the elderly laying in the bed. You know, that I'm going to watch you, make sure that you're taking care of mom's right. But then after that, I'm going to be so relieved that you're there. Be like, hallelujah. And go take me at least sit down somewhere or do something else other than, you know, give me a rest. That's why CNAs come to people's homes to do certain things and to respite for the person who is taking care of them. And respite just means give the person taking care of them some rest or downtime. And sometimes that's what you're there for, to help the caregiver who's been there 24/7 taking care of them. Just help me a little bit or help me do the hard thing, and maybe we can even do it together, but I'm going to be like, hallelujah, I need a break. And that's what respite care is. So just make sure if you see someone that won't leave their side for nothing, you want to wonder why. You know, sometimes they're just overprotected, but most of the time they're not. I mean, they're overprotected, but they're going to make sure you're okay, and then they're going to be like, hallelujah. So just watch that. Plus signs that indicate neglect: any pressure ulcers, unclean body lice, unanswered call lights, soiled bedding, poor fitting clothing, unmet needs or hearing aids, no eyeglasses. Those things are the patient's right to a quality of life. If they need glasses, get them some glasses. If they lost their glasses, get them some more. Things like that should be something that if it's going to improve their life, you need to help them get. That is part of their quality of life. Any weight loss, appetite, uneaten food, dehydration especially, that means you're not offering water in between meals. Any fresh water beverages not being offered, reports of not receiving medications. You know, people can die from that, so you need to make sure they get their meds. Nursing assistants are in an excellent position to observe and report abuse and neglect. Again, you will probably see that. You're going to have their clothes off, changing their clothes, helping them bathe, doing all kind of things that you'll see. A lot of times you don't want to just jump to conclusions, but sometimes people don't know how to take care of their family members. They don't let them sit in the bed thinking they're doing good, and a pressure sore will come up. Not that they knew it was coming up. Grandma, you know, they didn't realize grandma didn't move at all, and she done got a pressure sore on the back. Or a lot of times they'll come on their ankles because they're just laying in that bed with their ankles there. But it'd be that bad, and we didn't know to turn them every 2 hours. Why didn't somebody tell us? You know, do they assume we know everything? A lot of times they do. Since you allowed yourself to take care of you, they need teaching too. Just like our CNA claims, we need to teach them. And so don't jump to conclusions. Sometimes they didn't mean it. Make sure you know that. If abuse is suspected, make sure you do report it. And don't, even if it's a resident in the nursing home that has reported everybody else and you're the only one they'll let take care of. That kind of scares me a little bit because I may be next. You know, reported everybody else abusing you. And ain't nobody abusing you, but there is one at the nursing home that you have to go in for a witness because he'll tell lies on you. So you got to go in there, be a witness for whoever is taking care of him. And of course you're going to help. But yeah, he needs a witness because he's going to make up stuff. Act like he must be hallucinating. That's what they say. But no, we just got to make sure the man ain't over there. He may be hallucinating. He may be lying. He may just need some attention. But yeah, they always bring witnesses. And ombudsman, know who an ombudsman is and who they represent. They represent the resident. Underline, ombudsman is an advocate for residents, not for anybody else. When you hear ombudsman, they're not for you. They are a legal entity, part of the government, that comes in and helps resolve conflicts without being written up or without being all that extra involved. He's just going to be the talker, or the lady be the talker, and let's settle this without it being something bigger. But they are advocate for residents, and somebody probably done said something, and he's there to check it out. And that is what your ombudsman is. He was created because of the Older Americans Act, and that they have their rights to, somebody to watch over them while they're in the nursing home. Also, in that blue box, the Residents Council, and I always think about member student council, same thing. They got one at the nursing home. They got a president, vice president, they got the treasurer, they got the activity director, or whatever. Just like that we had in school, the council, they've got it in a nursing home. And they have little meetings, and we're not invited. They shut the door and talk whatever they want to say. They talk about this, they talk about food, they talk about whatever. If you're invited, you might ought to watch out, because they're probably going to tell you something that you ain't doing right. But that is your residence council. Or they want you to hear something that they've been talking about. So just they'll shut that door, though. And just know that them people, they're all of them brain have not went anywhere. It's most of them, like in a nursing home, is their bodily functions have messed up. It don't mean none of this. Don't talk in the hallway, they're listening. We got a little gossiping lady, she listens to everything everybody says. Oh yeah, they said that she didn't even come to class on time, so we don't know where she's at, and she's done. I'm like, this is what you found out in the hallway from us just, and I passing by, I'm looking for the CNA. I said, do you see so-and-so? Yeah, and I heard she, I was like, oh God. You'll see her in the hall, she's looking at everything and listening, so you gotta watch out. She also was told on a couple of CNAs talking about other patients in the hall, thinking you're just, and not paying no attention that she's listening, and there's other patients just as good-minded as she is, and just, reminds you of just the and there's ones that walk around in your neighborhood that knows these older people. She ain't changed, she's just in the nursing home. And there's a couple of them, probably, in every nursing home. But likes to gossip, just like there's gossipers right now. Y'all know them. They got to get old. They may end up in the nursing home, and they ain't changed. They finding all the gossip and want to talk about gossip all day. They will not change. Those people are going to be those people. So watch out, they are there listening. The Congress passed the Health Insurance Portability and Accountability Act. It's HIPAA. Know that is all about confidentiality. If you got to talk about somebody, talk to that whoever you need to talk to one-on-one. Not sharing too much information, not telling everybody else who's in the nursing home or even who visited them in the nursing home. All that stuff is all confidential. Make sure that you're in a private area when you listen and read your messages. Know with whom you're speaking to on the phone. A lot of times you got to be careful. You just don't give out information over the phone, even though they have a release of information. I always would pull up and look for a release of information. Most of the time, if y'all answer the phone, you just give it to the nurse, because somebody's got to pull a chart to see if that's the person that is you're supposed to talk to. So most of the time, you'll say, "Can I get a message? Can I leave a message? Can I get a phone number? We can contact you back." And then we're going to look in the chart and find out whoever has that release of information. That's who we're going to call. And then we're going to figure out who that person is, if it was them or somebody else. But you just don't give out information. I'm their sister, brother. Okay, let me get a message, and I'll give it to the nurse or whatever, or I get her chart and call you back. You look in the chart, find that whoever it is, and call them. And it may be the same person, may not, but use that number. Do not talk about residents in Publix, elevators, grocery stores, lounges, all those. Use confidential rooms for reports. If you see a resident's family member in public, be careful how you respond to them. Of course, I worked at detox, so when I see a patient, I let them talk to me first. They might not want nobody to know there's a detox, and some of them don't. They run it from their employee or wife or somebody, and they don't want them to know. So just know that let them come to you and ask you about their mother or whatever it might be, but let them come to you. Do not bring family and friends to the facility. Now my baby is terrible. She brings everybody. One of the little ladies, I went to do clinicals and she was like, yeah, I love your new grandbaby. Misha let me hold her, and I was like, that baby wasn't less than a week old. But I love the little lady. She used to be a professor teaching something, I forget, but still. I said, she done brought her to the nursing home. Someone could kill her. But there was a him, little Tamir. I love him. He's so sweet. But yeah, be careful with that. But all my grandbabies, they run through the nursing home and know all the little patients, and they're welcoming. They love them. But I'd be like, Misha. And they haven't even asked to go. Let's go to the nursing home. So, but at least they're not scared. Growing up, I was scared of old people. I really was. So I came into liking old people, but I was scared at the beginning because they always used to take us in church, take us to the nursing home, and they'd be like, okay, now go talk to everybody. Oh gosh. We'd do a scene and then we'd go talk, and I'd always find me somebody that was the talker, and I'm with them. But I got over it. I actually liked it, but I don't know. I was genuinely scared. I got over it. Make sure nobody can see health or personal information on your computer screen. If they can, turn it off. Turn it where they can't see it. Have a protector on that screen that, if they're not right in front of it, they can't see it. Do not give confidential information in emails as much as you can. Do not take photos of residents. Now that's one. One of my students, he doing a selfie with the patient. He's like, hey, smile. And I said, man, if you don't get that off their phone, they have to have, you have to get authorization of something, they call it, but you have to have permission to do that. There's no way you can do that. You can take a picture of yourself at the job, but you cannot take anything with the patients or the patient's names on their charts, none of that. So watch out for those charts too. Make sure fax numbers are correct. You don't want to be faxing the wrong things to the wrong people. It's real easy. Because we even had a lady at Turning Point that called and said, why are y'all faxing me all this stuff? Somebody had wrote the wrong fax number on the thing she had been getting for a long time. Some people I knew the fax number just because I've been there forever. But some people just following, it says fax number. And wherever it was, I forget where it was to. But it was the wrong number. And this lady was getting it. And she called and said, y'all are taking all my paper out of my machine. Because all the stuff was coming to her. And she just so happened to have a fax machine. Any other time it would have just said not completed, not complete, not complete. But she actually had a fax machine at her house. And that was odd, but she was getting them. So you got to make sure you get the right fax numbers. Do not leave documents where others can see them. Store, file, or shred documents. We always, if it had a patient's name on it, we put it in the shred box. If we're not going to use that piece of paper, we put it in the shred box if it's got a name on it. Otherwise, it can go to regular trash. But patient's names is going to the shred box because they're going to burn it or shred it up into the itty bitty pieces or whatever they do to get rid of it. If you do share information that you should not be sharing, it can cost you up to $100 to $1.5 million. Really depends on what's going on or what you've shared or how much them patients are mad or how much the family members are mad about it. So watch out for that as well. Or prison sentence up to 10 years. They take that. They don't take it lightly. You got to be very careful. If you're in nursing school, they would just throw you out. There's ways to deal with things. We had a couple patients, and I was so embarrassed, but they didn't say nothing bad about her. They were talking about what she had done or something, and family members, they just had got through. One of my students in clinicals was we was at Wendy's. So happened the family member of one of the patients was, I don't know, two chairs away, and heard everything they said about the lady and knew exactly what she was talking about. Called it Miss So-and-so. And the first thing they was like, that's confidentiality. We got to, what you gonna do? And I said, well, I guess, that's the way we're gonna have to get them out. And, the program. And she was like, no, we don't want to go that far because the family was not that concerned, but wanted the students to know not to be talking about family members in public. But it was that they were saying good things about her. Whatever it was, made them laugh, whatever it was. But, just not to be sharing information like that. And I was like, okay. Because they're going to tell me what their suggestion is. And I was like, okay, so we keep them in. And I gave them the little talk, and they was amazed, and they remember now. They was like, oh, that was that lady. And they knew. So be careful about that. Explain legal aspects of the resident's medical record. The resident's medical record or chart is a legal document. What is documented in the chart is considered in court to be what actually happened. So we are not charting things before they happen. We're not charting things that did not happen. A lot of times people will try to chart before. Don't do that because something might happen. You may have to, they may pull you to go take care of a whole another group of patients. And you don't ever come back, but you done charted, you've done something. So the next person comes around and say, oh, she's done did that. And they don't do it. But because you charted, you did. So just be very careful with that. Always chart afterwards. As close to afterwards as you can. Also, careful documentation. Do not record anything before it's been done. That's that last little sentence there. Think about what you want to say before writing it. Be as brief and clear as possible. We don't want whole sentences to read. We're not reading a book. We're reading HR. That's where you pull out will and can, or you just say patient found on floor. And that maybe that's not too many extra words, but I found the patient on the floor. You don't even put I in a chart. You say this nurse, or you don't even say I, because you would they can figure out who it was by who signed it. If you did not witness things, you do not write it. You let that person who witnessed it, or you write in there so and so reported. So it's not that you writing it, even though it happened. But if you did not see it, you do not say chart it. It needs to be that somebody else reported it, or you can even put names in there. So and so CNA reports, blah blah blah. Just make sure that it's not coming from you if you didn't see it. Most of the time, I'm going to give them that chart. I'm going to give them a little piece of paper, chart what you see, date and time, whatever it was. Because if you see things, they're going to ask you to do an incident report because you found them on the floor, or you all that, and all that comes with taking care of that patient. Use facts, not opinions. Use black ink when documented by hand. They don't like blue ink anymore because blue is hard to fax. When they're faxing information, blue is harder to see, and it doesn't fax well. So all black ink. It used to be we used black, green, and red. Black for days, green for eve, I guess red for night. But it was, we would depend on what color it was because people didn't know how to write A, M, and P, M. We couldn't figure out what an A was and a P was. It just because people was writing or they was scribbling. You know how people write. So they've changed that. That's why we have lately come into the military time, which we will talk about in a minute. But when you do make a mistake, it's okay. A lot of times I've done picked up the wrong chart and charted in the wrong chart. That's okay. You write one line through it, put your initial, date and time, whatever your facility requires, and then you put whatever the correct information was. And I've done it 1,000 times. But for me, I'm writing on the side wrong chart or something to make me remember why I changed that information. Because number one, that's wrong information. Why am I wrong through somebody's chart? Am I trying to cover up something or whatever? I write that because if it ever comes back later in life, well, you can read what happened. It said wrong chart. I had the wrong chart. I'm not going to remember if I don't put a little something there so I can remember. And that's me. You don't have to do that. But I do that just in case it ever comes back. I'm going to have an explanation of why it was scratched out. I've had to scratch out a whole everything before. Whole observation and plan and everything. Because that chart is charting. You don't take things out the chart, especially if somebody else hadn't wrote on that piece of paper. You can just take the piece of paper out, throw it away, or put it in the right chart, put the right name on it. But if somebody else has wrote on that piece of paper, you do not remove that piece of paper. I had to do all these lines, one line through everything. Don't be scribbling. A lot of people love to, so we can't see what was up under it. They want to see what was up under it. They're going to think you're hiding something. What was written there? What did you write there? Why is he scribbling through it? So always one line, and then date, time, and initial. Make sure you do that. And they got an example of that right there, that gray, where it says at 9:50 vital signs, BP was 150/70, and she made some kind of mistake, one line through it, BP 140/70, and then date. Looks like just date and initial on that one, but follow your facility policy. I always write date and time. That's what I normally write, but they've got date and date and initial. But it really depends on where you at. But just one line. Sign your full name. Y'all gonna be signing CNA behind it, and it really depends on your facility as well. You might can do C. Davis or whatever. We had to do their full name, Cheryl Davis, and a lot of times I would love it. We could just put our initial on stuff. Then they'll have a whole nother sheet that says write your name and what your initial looks like. So they can have something to look up and say, oh, that's her initials. And that's what they do doctors like that, because, that scribble they do. We don't know who is that. But they got a whole little sheet that all the doctors have signed, so we know what the signature is. That's how they know with some of those. Because otherwise, that scribbling thing, I don't know where they learned that. They don't learn it. They just do it. And I want to say it's because they think it's so fast. Their mind's going so fast, they ain't got time to write their name. They just, so they can keep thinking about something else. But I don't know why this scribble. But you'll see if y'all ever get to giving meds or looking at prescriptions. I'm sure you've seen your own prescriptions and like, well, I can't even read that. But I love a nurse practitioner. She normally writes her things out correctly. You can read it, but a doctor, sit there and scribble mess. And you like, want to choke you. What does that say? But you learn them. So y'all get there. But you'll see in your own prescriptions. So make sure, CNA behind your name. As if you have to chart anything, and you probably won't while we're doing clinicals, you put an S in front of it. Student, CNA. So they'll know you are a student. Documentation may need to be done using the 24-hour clock, and that is what this is over here. We call it military time. So for military time, you just add 12 or subtract 12, depending on which way you're going. So everything from 12 o'clock p.m. all the way to, or I should say 12 o'clock a.m. all the way to 12 o'clock p.m. is the same. So if I tell you it's 1 a.m., in military time, it's 0100. Same thing. If I tell you it's 9 a.m., it's 0900. If I tell you it's 11:59 p.m., a.m., sorry, it's going to be 11:59 military time as well. Once we hit 12 o'clock, it is turns into, well, it's 12 o'clock all the way until 1 o'clock. At 1 o'clock, we turn it, then you just start adding 1 to it. I add 12 hours, actually. So at 12 is 12, then 13, 14, 15, 16. You just add 12 hours, because you got to think about it's 24 hours in a day, and that's all it is. You got to go around the clock twice. And I used to actually, when they asked me these questions in nurse school, I would draw my clock and sit there and figure out what time it is. Because at 3 o'clock p.m., what time it is military time? Yeah.
So once you go on one time, it'll be like 0-100, but then when the second time, it'll be 1300, 1400.
When it goes back the second time, it don't start at 1300 until 1 o'clock.
Okay.
You got to go through that 12 o'clock hour. It starts at 0, 0, 0, 0.
How do you do it within the, say, minutes?
Just add the minutes. Just add them. Don't even think about that. If it's 12:30 a.m., it's 0030.
Okay.
If it's 9:30 p.m., what is 9 plus 12? 2130.
2130.
Yeah. The minutes you just add. You don't play with the minutes. They stay
Okay.
the same. Because all we're doing is making a 24-hour clock instead of a 12-hour. And that came about because people, write in weird times, AM and PM, we couldn't figure it out. So they went to military time. And it really depends on your facility, but a lot of people are doing military time. It makes it more accurate and less mistakes.
Get used to that. Military time is not my thing.
Yeah, so 3 p.m., people were write 3, we wouldn't see the difference 3 p.m. or 3 a.m. And if it's the wrong little scribbling, we wouldn't know which one it is. Yes, there's a little one bothering me. It's like a fruit fly.
Yes.
And I don't know where the fruit's at around here, but he's got to go. It's a fruit fly around here. But get that in your head, and they're going to have to ask you the opposite way. So if I tell you it's 2300, what time is it?
11 o'clock.
11 o'clock. 11 o'clock a.m. or p.m.?
PM.
p.m. If it's anything over 13, it's p.m. So if I tell you it is 1500 military time, what time is it?
That'd be 3.
3. Just get that in your head because that will be somewhere on your test.
Okay.
That is your military time. It really depends on who are you working in. And then number 9, explain the minimum data sheet set. It is a detailed form with guidelines for assessing residents. Underline that. It tells everything that's going on with that resident that you can even think of. They have one left eye that they can't see out of. Their vision is. They need help doing. They can't read. They can read. All the above. They're going to take every body part and tell you what they can do. And do they need help? They need 2-person help. They need a Hoyer lift. They need a cane or wheelchair. What is going on with that patient? That MDS we have to do. We have to do it yearly after we do a whole one. And then they update them if anything happens to them. We have to go and update it all over. But that is a MDS. It has to be done within 14 days of admission and again each year and after anything that happens to them as well. Any major changes. Incident report. You always do an incident report, whatever happens. Anything can be an incident, as long as it's out of the abnormal or out of the normal things that happen during the day. If it's abnormal, we're going to do an incident. A fall is the perfect incident. Not a perfect one, but that is the incident we are definitely going to report. They use the incident reports as a briefing to see what we can do better. Why can we not do that again? What happened that that person fell? Was the floor something? Did we not answer the call light quick enough? Did they try to get up? Is the patient not aware that they can't walk? Or do they need some education? And we use that to try to change to see what's going on, and maybe that won't happen again. But you still chart what happened to the resident, but an incident report itself does not go in the chart. So they will put that into risk management probably, most likely. It's going to risk management because we don't want that to happen again. Mostly they're looking at what led to the incident. Sometimes it's just the incident, it happened. Sometimes, a lot of times something caused it to happen, but what was it? And can we fix that? Maybe not, but they'll look into that and find out. That's what an incident report is, but you also chart what happened to your resident inside of that too, but there's a whole nother report called incident report. If a resident falls, if an NA or resident breaks or damages something, if the NA makes a mistake in care, if the resident or family member makes a request that's out of the scope of practice, if a resident or family member makes sexual advances, again, y'all see, it's just any kind of incident. It doesn't have to be that patient feels. Any kind of something that's going out of the ordinary. Anything happens that make you feel uncomfortable, threatened, or unsafe, write it down. And NA gets injured, even you write an incident report for yourself. If the NA is exposed to body, blood, and bodily, if you get a finger stuck, or if you get your hands into just blood, period, that's an incident report. Anything that happens, especially if you get hurt, you have an incident report. That's going to help you later on if something does develop from that. Reporting and documenting is done To protect everyone involved, this includes the resident, the employer, and the nursing assistant. NAs must report any incident, including job-related injuries, immediately to the charge nurse. When documenting incidents, NAs should complete the report as soon as possible and give it to the charge nurse, so nothing can happen or you don't forget stuff. You need to know as detailed as possible. If you wait to the end of the shift to try to report something that's done at the beginning, you'll be messed up. Also, don't write an opinion, or don't write, if you did not see it, you don't write Mr. G failed. Even though you found him on the floor, that's what you write. I found Mr. G on the floor. I did not see him fall. You don't have to write all that. But you write Mr. G walked in the patient's room, Mr. G on the floor. You know, called nurse so she can look at the patient. That is an incident, but never write what you think happened, write what you see. And that's the best thing on an incident report, just write what you see. And that's with her. Always tell what happened, state the time, and how the patient felt, and how they looked, how they looked before, how they looked afterwards, how they was thinking before. Maybe they're confused. I mean, whatever could have happened. They could have hit you. That's an incident. You know, how were they acting before? Maybe no kind of way. Maybe they just hit you. You know, but in that report, they won't detail stuff like that. State the facts, not opinions. Don't write anything in the incident report on the medical record. Describe the action taken to give care. And that is our chapter 1. So,
Monday we'll have a test over chapter 1.
Monday will be test over chapter 1. Which will have some good questions in it that I can't find. I just put those in a whole nother booklet.
And don't forget the, Bible study.
Yes, thank you. Y'all got to get that. I got to find my little report sheet. I'll probably put your little review online. For the test, know what to focus on about the test. Cause I don't have that. I haven't taught CNA in a minute. I'm wondering where my stuff is.
Stop the video.
Hmm.
Don't forget to stop the video.
So what?
Don't forget to stop the video.
Oh, I sent one of them. Do y'all see that? Ooh, thank you very much.